Hey,
David. Yes, what's up?
so you heard of this Christ is King controversy?
Oh, yes, I have.
Jews are trying to tell us we can't say Christ is King.
Right, that's what they do. That's exactly what they're trying to do, apparently.
All right, guys. So, hey, you want to give everyone a crash course since you're becoming a Christian? So, you're on the path of becoming a Christian, and so you are now an expert on all things Christian, as you can see from everyone asking you questions about your views.
Naturally.
What's going on with this Christ is King controversy?
Well, where shall we begin? So, the Christ is King controversy. Well, where shall we start? So, here's the thing. So there is a phrase that was adopted at some point by some people called Christ is King. Last year or so, or the year before, I think, it became first used by some people who didn't really begin using it as devout Christians because they love Christ so much and because they feel so devout as Christians to Christ. They rather started using it as kind of a provocative political rallying phrase, even often used by people who are not even proper Christians or who are not even Christians. So it was very much pushed by the gropers, and then at some point Candace Owens jumped in and also started using that phrase, Christ is King. And it's like, and it's actually a perfect trolling or perfect phrase to
it's perfect
to manipulate people and rally people against Jews, because it goes into the whole fallacy that we talked about in the past, which is kind of the m&bailey fallacy. It's like they say Christ is King to Jews to attack them. They say, "Oh, you Jew, Christ is King." And then when people see this pattern of these people using Christ as King, they say, "Hey, you need to stop using that phrase to attack people." Then they turn on and say, "You see, they're trying to ban us from saying Christ is King because they are against Christ." So they're basically doing that, and thereby tricking the masses and also misusing and disrespectfully abusing the name of Christ and Christian sentiments. And Candace Owens, most likely knowing that this is the trick behind it, jumped into the whole discussion and actually used the phrase against Ben Shapiro.
She said she didn't. She said she didn't. AP. We're gonna check that video clip and we'll take a look at the tweets. Actually goes back a little before, but when you're bringing it up now, and you said like a year ago or whatever, that's when I started noticing it. But apparently it goes back to some earlier political functions where Nick Fuentes showed up with a group at some a MAGA rally or something like this and started yelling Christ is King, Christ is King, Christ is King, to see how people would react to it and so on. And so, anyway, it became associated with the Groypers because they started showing up to political events shouting Christ is King and so on. And then they started using it online as like their rallying call. And then they started attaching it to all sorts of other things they would want to say about Jews. Like, "Hey, you Jew, blah, 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 Christ is King." And someone would say, "Hey, what's going on here?" And they say, you see, they're telling us not to say Christ is King. And then a bunch of people bought into this and like, "What? The Jews are telling us we can't say Christ is King." So a bunch of people who have nothing to do with the Groypers started thinking, "What? The Jews are saying that we can't say Christ is King. The Jews have declared war on Christianity." And here we are. And then you had people taking sides, people taking advantage of the situation. And then you've got us sitting here somewhat amused, and we'll go through it and try to get to the bottom of this. But really, guys, the real takeaway is you need to pay attention to things like this, because as everyone becomes more polarized and so on, one, you have entire groups that are ready to go to war with a different group over anything that happens, right? And then you have this is what Jordan Peterson would point out. You have the dark tetrad people with the dark tetrad of personality disorders. So your psychopaths, your narcissists, your Machiavellians, and your sadists, and so on. They see when there are things that they can use to cause division or something like this, or to split people up or to get people enraged and stuff like that. They pay attention to this. And so these are the kind of people who will see the situation. Oh, there's something brewing with this Christ is King stuff, and figure out a way to use it against people they don't like or anything else. So that's what's going on in the world right now. And we're going to go ahead and go through some of this, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go through some of this. This could be a mistake here. This could be a mistake. I mean it could be a tactical error, because the Christ is King stuff it seemed to peak at certain times and then dies down at certain times and so on. It had seemed to die down, and then a report with Jordan Peterson involved came out, and a little video came out with it. Did you see this little video?
No.
A video came, I only saw it pop up yesterday. I don't know if it was published before that, but this is the video that popped up that I saw yesterday. It may have been like a day earlier or something like that, but it's pretty new. It's the last day or two. And then Candace responded to this video, and then Jordan Peterson responded to Candace, and so on. So let's go ahead and check this out.
Since the advent of Christianity, Christ is King has been a cry for connection to the divine, a declaration of faith, a moving signal between Christians of their shared values. But what happens when it becomes a manipulation tactic designed to deceive Christians? Mentions of Christ as King have increased fivefold.
You're muted. You're a mutant,
Hey,
man.
don't tell me what I'm doing. A manipulation tactic designed to manipulate Christians. Interesting.
On platforms like X in just the past 4 years. At first glance, it would seem
What did he
hopeful as mentions of Christ as King have increased fivefold on Christians. Mentions of Christ as King have increased fivefold on platforms like X in just the past 4 years.
Well, that's good, right?
At first glance, it would seem hopeful as people begin to reinvestigate faith in the face of increasing secularization and chaos in the world. But the NCRI, an organization at the forefront of monitoring deep trends in data, observed a striking and nefarious development around the phrase Christ is King beginning in 2021.
But there's a bunch of Jews in that organization. That is the, I don't know if you've seen it, but that's the people flipping out. They looked at the people listed in the study, and there were several Jews. And they say, how could these Jews be involved in this study about anti-Semitism? Funny thing.
In 2024, more than 50% of all engagements around Christ is King posts were driven by extremist influencers. The word extremist gets used a lot, and many are understandably skeptical at its use. But we're talking about people like this.
I used sex as a tool to make women love me so they'd obey me and live in my house and make me money.
Catholics and Christians were going missing on Passover, then they would find bodies, and they were able to trace them back to Jews. Blood.
Is this what she's talking about? Jews killing all the kids and stuff? And then I think that's the
Prankist.
yeah. And then that's the same clip. That's the same clip where she was saying that anytime you mention Jews, you have to say, I don't want to die, or Israel or something like that. I have to say, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. It's the only group that if you mention them, you have to point out that you don't want to die. Yeah, meanwhile, she talks about Jews like 24 hours a day for the past 2 years. She doesn't want
So they'd obey me and live in my house and make me money.
Catholics and Christians were going missing on Passover, then they would find bodies, and they were able to trace them back to Jews. Blood libel.
Real Africans, on average, have an IQ of 65.
Posts like these achieved over 13.6 million views and more than 100,000 engagements during Easter 2024 alone.
So, guys, yeah, that's when I started seeing it, and that's when, I mean, think about this. You had Andrew Tate, Sneeko, Nick Fuentes, and they're all blasting away. And two of these guys aren't a Christian in any sense. And then Nick, pretty darn, like I can't look into his soul and tell what he actually believes, but he seems like an evil scumbag who uses Catholicism for his racism and political agenda and so on. Bigly. But I mean, think about this. If you have Muslims out there. Yes, Christ is king. Christ is king. Right when the Groypers are using it. I mean, come on. Are you seriously taking this as a proclamation of devout faith in Jesus when guys like this are the ones using it?
I also have to say this. So the whole phrase, if you actually go back looking at the phrase, it's not a phrase that appears in the Bible. It's not a phrase that appears in Christian history very much. It is a phrase that developed quite late on, based on the idea that Jesus is king, or that Christ is king. But the phrase itself, as a phrase, very much just got popularized over the last 20 years, and especially in the last over the last year, this whole controversy became very, very big. But over the last 10 years or so, I think in the 2010s or so, this came to be picked up by these people, by the white nationalists, by the Nazi gangs, just as a kind of as a phrase to provoke people. And these people are usually not people who are very, very religious, who are very devout, who have much. There are studies like IP has some really good stuff on that, showing how these Christian nationalist, white nationalist types of that sort, of the Nick Fuentes sort, are usually people who are not very believing, very observant, church visiting, or anything like that. They use Christianity more as an identity, more as a cultural thing. That's it.
The people who really started using this as their main mantra are the Groypers. We'll go ahead and see. Nick Fuentes admits that. He says, hey, yeah, this is, we're the group that started using this as a political tool. He's going to say it. We're going to watch a video. We're also going to look, at the report that this video is referencing. And they give a little history. Apparently in the early 20th century, I think around 1920 or something like that, the Catholic Church adopted that, but it was used as a response to various nationalist movements that were arising. And they're saying, hey, you guys, just keep in mind that your leader, ultimately Christ is king. Christ is king. And then, so that's why the Catholic Church started using it. And now you've got Nick Fuentes in the name of Catholicism saying, we're using it for our Christian white racist nationalism. They're like, wait a minute, that's the opposite of what it was meant for. Anyway, interesting, fun stuff. Let's go ahead and finish this video here.
While co-opting the phrase for their toxic narrative, figures like Candace Owens and Jake Shields repeat hateful blood libels. And shockingly, by 2024, the most frequently associated term with Christ as King was the word Jew. Okay, got that, guys? So that's actually important, and that's part of what the study is about. But the idea is, if you're looking at the online data and so on, how people are using Christ as King, well, for most of its history, even online, it's just used, hey, Christ is king. Christians are saying Christ is king in various contexts and so on. As of 2024, the most closely associated thing with it is Jew. In other words, if you're looking up tweets saying Christ is king, and you've got some sort of AI searching for references to Christ as king, the most commonly associated thing with it is Jew. Which means the person is also posting something about Jews in the same tweet. So he's saying blah 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 blah, Jew, Christ is king. And so that's the issue. It's been co-opted for a different purpose, namely by people like the Groypers.
I'm looking right now at Google Trends for the phrase Christ is King. It's actually very funny. Those who like to look up word or phrase trends, just go on Google Trends and enter in parentheses Christ is King. You will see it very, very very easily. The peak trend of the phrase is over the last since 2004. Between 2004 and 2010, it is basically non-existent. It occasionally appears here and there. 2014, it becomes slightly used. The peak is March 2024. Second peak after that is October 2024. And right now is the third most popular time. This is obviously not just an expression of religious beliefs, it's a political thing that is being abused and adopted for specific purposes.
Smartly, may I add. It's evil. It's evil the way it's being used, but smart. And guys, this is I pointed out. So if you're just watching this for the first time, I've pointed out before. This was used in the same way that the slogan "Black Lives Matter" was used. See, it's the same thing. You take a slogan, "Black Lives Matter," and who adopted that as their slogan? Well, not just people who are saying, "Hey, Black Lives Matter." It was adopted by a Marxist group. They're a group of radical Marxists, and they adopt that as their slogan. And you could go on their website back in the day and look at the things they were advocating, and it's some really, really messed up, sick, evil stuff. But if you said at any point, "Hey, I have a problem with," say what? Problem with what? Black Lives Matter? This person says black lives don't matter. This person has a problem with black people, you see. This person doesn't think that black lives matter or at all valuable, you see. What did they do? They took a Marxist agenda, put a slogan on the front of it, and then anytime someone responds to them, they say, "You see, this person is against Black Lives Matter." Well, what do you have with the Groypers? They have the same thing. They have a political agenda where if they were to tell you what their political agenda is, a white nationalist Catholic nation, the vast majority of people would be against it. So what do you do? What do you do? Well, come up with a slogan, "Christ is King," and then anytime someone says they have a problem with you coming up with you turning America into a racist, a racist political Catholic nation. Anytime someone objects to that, you say, you see, they have a problem with Christ being king. All we say is Christ is king, and that's why. Yeah, AP is right. This is in the realm of the m&bailey fallacy. The m&bailey fallacy is again where you have all these ideas and so on that you're supposed to be defending. And then when someone criticizes your stupid and difficult to defend ideas, you retreat to this little tower and say, "Hey, I'm just saying this." So Black Lives Matter, they have all these political ideas and stuff. And then when you respond to them, they go, "Hey, we're just saying Black Lives Matter." Well, that's not what you're saying. That's not what you're really after. And the same thing with the Groypers. Here's all the stuff we want. And here's what we want to do in the world. And you attack them on it and they go, "Hey, we're just saying Christ is king, man. We're just saying Christ is king."
Are you against Christ now? What?
Yeah, you see, the Jews have infiltrated you. All right, let's finish this video.
The intent is clear. Manipulate well-meaning, faithful Christians into having their beliefs tethered to psychopaths. This is nothing short of diabolical. We're caught watching Christ is King being taken by the supremacist right more and more each day. These connections matter. The spiritual, the linguistic, the interpersonal. They shape us, they shape our society, and they shape the world. So what kind of connections do we want to build? And more importantly, what kind of world will we help create? Help retake our values.